Welcome, everybody, back to the Burning Bear podcast. And I am your host, Anthony. And as you may have noticed, we are joined by a special guest today. Say hello to the goat man. This is my son, Maddox. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing amazing today. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. So I drug you on this show. You've been watching me do this podcast thing for a few years now, right?
Yep, that is correct.
And you feel like you're an expert because you've been watching me, I'm sure.
No, not too much. I get proven wrong on a typical basis.
I'm not an expert either, so like these poor folks out here on YouTube, but that's okay. They're enjoying it, or Spotify or whatever other platform you're listening. We appreciate you all. Hopefully, you guys have been doing pretty good. We have an interesting episode today, hopefully, and we're gonna just do a brief introduction to Goatman. He is going to end up being a regular co-host on this show, and I thought it would be good. He has been going down the personal growth healing journey for about what, 2 years now?
Yeah,
A year
I think year and a half going
ish?
on the 2-year mark now.
Yeah, it all kinds of runs together over time. You're like,
Yeah.
I've been working. It takes some time. But I thought, and he thought, that this would be a great way to be able to communicate some of the material that we're sharing on this platform, because you are how old, sir?
17 now.
17, and you just turned 17, didn't you?
Yep, just last month.
Ah, look at that. He's getting ready to be 18. Just like I talked about in the Matrix video, he is at that stage of life where he is getting ready to transition into the real world. We all love that, right? But he has also been going through this healing growth journey as a young man. And things that we talked about, again, like in the Matrix video, this breaking up with the Matrix, this deprogramming. In fact, I think he may have a very special part of that, because we've started deprogramming him before he really started getting too programmed by the Matrix. But as you're going to see throughout the show, that's also been difficult, right? That not the easiest thing in the world, is it?
Ooh.
It's challenging when all of your friends are very subscribed to the Matrix, and here you are as a young man, and you're like, I don't think I think that, and then they look at you like you're
Yeah.
it is part of the process, unfortunately. But hopefully for you guys out there in the audience, we're going to introduce a couple of things on the show with Goatman that is going to be beneficial not only to our younger audience. I think anybody that's between the ages of 12, 25 years old, maybe even 28 or 29, really benefit from a lot of the stuff that he has been working on and going through. And then for those that don't know me or my family dynamic, this is my stepson. So we have a very stepfather stepson relationship. We're a blended family coming out of divorce. And so we're going to kind of talk through that for you today, just to give you a little bit of an insight to like what's in our world. And I also think these are important things because you have to practice what you preach, and we are trying to practice what we preach here on this show. We're trying to practice what I believe, the things that I've subscribed to in my life, my own personal growth, his mom's personal growth and her journey. We're trying to relay that to him, and it has impacted our family dynamic as a whole. So without further ado, all these statements people are going to get so sick of. They're like, it is what it is without further ado. But that's okay. I speak the way that I do. Let's dive into, I think maybe the best place for us to start is let's just tell some stories.
Nah, that's
Like we can just talk about, like, the year is 2019, right? 2019. I just started going through a divorce. I'm a few months into the divorce, and I meet your mom.
Mhm.
And your mom is also in about the same process of going through a divorce. There's some nuances there and some weird things that are going on. Then you are thrust into this weird thing. I have 2 children.
Mhm.
Okay. So at that time you were 11?
11. Yep.
11. Oh my goodness.
That's 6 years.
Woo, has time. He was like this big, guys. Like seriously.
It was 80 pounds soaking wet.
I mean, the circus was calling. It was terrible, but he was tiny, and now he's bigger than me. It's so funny as you go up through life. Like I keep telling they when they were younger, all my kids were like, "You're so big, I want to be like you." Now they're all bigger than me, and they like pat me on the head, and they're like, "You're a little man." Yeah, bastards. Anyway, but so I have two children. My children were 12 or 13.
I believe Ethan was 13 and
Thir-
Dakota was 12 because she's about 4 months older than me.
Okay, so she had just turned 12. So all of the kids were in relatively similar ages. Now, you also have an older brother, right?
Correct.
And how old is your oldest brother or your older brother?
Believe he's 22 this year.
22. And he lived with you for most of your life up until the divorce happened and we kind of blended our family.
Mhm.
And then he went ahead and moved on. So he's been out of your life for the last 6 years, roughly.
Oh, yeah, about 5 because didn't leave till about the end of the divorce. That
Okay.
was about when I turned 12, so about 5 years.
Okay, so you have the stage, and then we've talked about like in my introduction video I gave to you guys, like I was not, a pillar or beacon of like humanity by any means. I was traumatized and I had my own issues, and we're going to talk about some of that today, because we both did. Neither one of us came into this relationship in the space that we are currently at today. And where we're at today, I think is pretty special, and hopefully that'll communicate out there to you guys. But we have this wonderful family dynamic where it really is just kind of the three of us. We're like floating through the Pacific Northwest, living the dream, right? But it didn't start out that way. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There was actually a lot of challenges. So I really honestly don't know the answer to this question, but like, what's your first memory of me?
First memory of you. It was oh, this is a hard one. I remember meeting you, and at first, you were very, focused on my mom. In my brain, it was very like, "You're just here for mom, kinda just let me stay in the background."
Hmm.
So I viewed you as a kinda, like, big macho guy, but very teddy bear-like at the same time. Like, you play both those dynamics very heavily where you were like that Midwestern, "Grr, I'm da da da," like, brutish almost, but
Okay. Yeah. Like overcompensating male.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
That's a good way to describe it.
It's a great way to describe it. But aside from that, seemed like a super good guy when I first met you.
When you first met me. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I didn't really know what to think about you when I first met you. Um, you were young, and I knew you were young, and I know you had lived your life with your mom pretty exclusively. Your dad was always gone, and he worked traveling job and things like that. So, and he was ex-military like me, so and then working, as a contractor and all this other stuff. So there was a lot of like deployment time in life, and so most of the time you were raised by your mom, and that was really all I knew of you at that time. Like
Mhm,
your mom didn't she was very hesitant about introducing me to the kids. In fact, you were the last one to be introduced because she was kind of protecting you, and I understood why.
mm.
But so we got to meet, and then I met you, and everything was fine. And then for me, fast forward to I think the beginning of our difficult patch for me was New Year's of was it 2020
Uh,
or was that 2021?
that would have been 2020. Are you talking about the one we had at Fieldstone?
Yeah, though well, no, the New Year's where we went bowling, and then we went up to the, Lumiere Sculpture Park.
That was 2021, I believe. It's 20
Yeah, honestly, I don't remember, but
one of the 2.
it was shortly after, it must have been 21, I think, because
Mhm,
COVID had already happened, and, we were definitely at the Hillsborough home at that time, so it had to be at least 2021. It was New Year's of 2021,
yeah.
and we had, like, a major meltdown that night. Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little bit, right?
Fighting there.
And so, I you can jump in at any point. I'll tell the story, I think,
Mhm.
is you were, very upset we went bowling, and you lost, and you were really, really upset about losing at bowling.
Yep.
And, why were you upset?
So for the few times my dad would come in, one of the biggest things we would do as a family is we go bowling. And my dad had always kind of had a very heavy competitiveness, but he always did it very withdrawn. He would just kind of poke you into being competitive with him. And so that led for a dynamic in my brain to be made where bowling was always seen as a very competitive thing. And he would let me
Okay.
win. So I'd get a competitiveness from it. So then I get bowling with you guys and I did terrible, like the worst bowling session of my life. But that was mainly why I had a lot of dynamics with him that caused me to project that onto those sessions.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I really didn't understand the whole upset, but I know that we have this weird thing is it's kind of also around a birthday, right? And it makes it so weird because here you are, you're trying to celebrate this New Year's and it's also a birthday and it doesn't feel right and you really can't prioritize one over the other. And then I ended up getting upset with you. I remember going into the bedroom and like giving you a talk, right? I didn't
Mhm.
quite yell at you, but I gave you a really stern talking to. But I had really up to that point no parental influence whatsoever.
No, that was about your and my first experience as a talk together in a parental way.
Right. And from my perspective, I was coming from a very Midwestern dad, ex-military dad kind of standpoint. I was very rigid, strict. It was like, this is what we are doing. This is how you're going to behave. Don't screw this up for everybody. And I went in there really thinking I was doing like the right thing.
Mhm.
And maybe for the course of the evening it went well, but how did that impact our relationship in that moment? What was your internal?
Um, it definitely made it a little harder to be around you in a lot of ways because I had already had a foundation of very loose, non-strict family. My mom would let me do basically whatever I want. I was a very spoiled child growing up. He was the first part of my life or area of my life where I started experiencing what having a strict parent was like or what getting a stern talking to was like. Like the most I ever got a stern talking to from my mom was a slap on the hand and said, "Stop." And I'd stop.
Yeah.
So definitely made it a lot harder to talk to you because I didn't really trust you. Now you were like that big bad guy in my mind.
Yeah, that's fair. And I was a more strict parent in my previous life. And then when I came into this relationship, your mom softened me a great deal. And really honestly, and for those out there, like this is one of the areas that actually ended up causing a rift between me and my children because they got very upset that I got soft. They were very mad that I wasn't the strict hardcore dad that I used to be. I remember my daughter, we had an argument once and I remember her like literally looking at me like, "Why don't you yell at us anymore?" Like, "Why don't you get mad?" And it's like, "Well, I don't want to get mad. I'm not trying to bring drama into this. It's like, why can't we just talk this out?" But the idea of using words to communicate, using conversation to come up to solutions was really foreign to them and foreign to me as well. And I think that that's one of the things that you struggled with because you were so quiet for the first couple of years. Like you didn't really talk about your feelings, you didn't talk about your emotions. It was like pulling teeth. My older son Ethan is the worst about this. It's like, yeah, are you happy? I don't know. Are you mad? Oh no, I'm not mad. It's like, okay, something is wrong. But when you can't communicate, that really hurts your ability to come up with resolution or to get to a space to where you're like, we're going to do better at what we're doing, or we're going to try to find a way to be able to parent together or do anything together.
Mhm.
And that lack of communication lasted for a long time.
2 years.
Or longer, right? I think maybe up until about 24.
Yeah, I didn't start really coming out of my shell till about 24. I don't know about Ethan Dakota. I know Ethan started just getting more and more cut off. And then
Mhm.
Dakota started talking more as well.
Yeah, my communication with my own children kept diminishing. And I went through so many changes. I started down this path really when the divorce happened is when I started down the path of my own personal growth, right? I don't know if I'd call it awakening at that time. I was just trying to not be such a shitbag. Like, let's be honest. Like that was it. I was just trying to fix my stuff and I thought, I'm a little too military, I'm a little too hard, I'm a little too crass. I've got PTSD and some other things and I was trying to heal through some of the basics of that space. And as I started to develop and change, it's like it happens in a lot of relationships. You see this in couple relationships too, especially around the medicine space. One person will go to the medicine and all of a sudden they have this huge epiphany. And then they want to like go home and they're going to radically change their life and they start peeling layers off. And the next thing you know, their spouse is like, where the hell did my partner go? Like, this isn't the person I married. Because you have to remember, I don't care how you feel about you right now at this stage in your life. Whoever's in your life likes this version of you, or they wouldn't be with you.
Mm.
Even if you have things that are grinding on them, at the end of the day, they signed up for this contract with the previous version of yourself. And they don't want to come along necessarily with the change. And that's what happened with my kids. My kids had no interest in making a change. They wanted everything to go back to the way it was before the divorce happened. You did too, I think.
Yeah, I was definitely avoiding both of my parents in that
Y-
instance.
And it's understandable because that's all you know. You're familiar and it's life. And so there was definitely a rift that formed between my children. Me and you didn't have quite enough of a bond at that point where it was impacting our relationship.
Mhm.
But from your perspective, when did you see me start going through the changes, and how did you perceive that in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was slowly how you would interact with me. Think at the very beginning, it was always very stern, talking, very rigid, very to the point always. Not much room for joking, laughter, any of that. Then as we started talking and the years went on, you slowly softened up. You'd make more jokes, you'd be more open to conversation. It felt like I wasn't walking on eggshells as much.
Okay.
I think when I really started noticing changes was around Hillsborough, probably of 23.
Oh, right after before or after ayahuasca?
Little bit before, and then
Okay.
when you guys came back from ayahuasca and I was listening to your guys' stories and what all happened, that's what really opened up my mind to your guys' change.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So up until then, you really hadn't perceived anything. I was just a dude that was living in your life, going through the motions. You fucking hated me, and
Yeah.
that's where it was at.
Pretty much. I was avoiding you, Ethan, and Dakota. I think the main thing that kept you good in my mind was that my mom loved you and you treated her well, and that was really the biggest thing I cared about at that time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
No
I do love your mom very much, and I do my best to try to be the best version of myself for her.
Mhm.
But definitely was not all the time, right? And definitely not for the kids. Like, no excuses. That's just the reality of it. As I was going through this process earlier in the divorce, I really thought I was delusional. I really thought that we were just gonna like blend families, everything was gonna go great. We were gonna like be this happy little like gaggle of blended family, and that we were just gonna not be a statistic and just go on,
Mm.
That is not what happened.
No.
No, not even close. In fact, it was touch and go for such a long time.
Mhm.
And then for me, when I first met you, you were just a typical child. Like, you didn't necessarily have traits that I enjoyed. I thought you were lazy. I
I
thought
was.
I thought you were unmotivated. You were one of those gamer kids. You lived behind a video screen.
Mhm.
You didn't wanna go outside, you didn't wanna interact, you didn't like my kids, and so you didn't wanna be around us or the kids, and then every other week you were leaving and going to your dad's house, so there was also this, like, time disconnect that was occurring. It was like, you'd come back and, I remember you come back from your dad's, there'd be, like, a 2 or 3-day transition. You'd finally start to fall into, like, a decent groove, like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're back to your dad's,
And then
and it just restarts all over again. And when we had that program going,
Mhm.
we our schedule, we really couldn't get into a groove.
Mm-mm. It was too hard. It's too much change too quickly.
Okay. So, but up until I think that the really big change happened in 24. And in 24, you had made a decision that you no longer wanted to go over to your dad's
Mhm.
and that you wanted to live with your mom full time.
Yep. That's correct.
But I also feel like that was when all of our problems started. Like for me, all of the challenge of dealing with Maddox as a child in my life really became.
A parent at that time.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you were doing the schedule every other week, it was like it was an annoyance, like the 2 or 3 days that you were acting shitty, it was like I'd be annoyed by it, like it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. It's like, I just knew my Monday through Wednesday was shot,
Mm.
right? Like, your mom's gonna be upset because no parent can handle their kids in a bad space, right? So your mom's upset, I'm upset because your mom's upset, I'm upset at you because you're acting like an asshole, and and then we would kind of get a groove and everything would go great. And then we're just repeat, repeat, repeat. But then you come full time, and I was so excited. I have to tell you, when you made the decision to live with your mom full time because of the challenges that we were dealing with, and I will leave that on you if you want to talk about that at all, if you want to
Mhm.
share that down the road in other podcasts, we're going to get into this because there's a lot of people out there, especially, we're not alone in this.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people out there that are raised in bad homes. They have toxic parents, narcissistic parents, they have abusive parents, alcoholic, addict parents. Like, there is no shortage of people with bad parents. And I was a bad parent. And that's just the reality. It took me a while to realize that, but I was as well. And so, we're all traumatizing our children like coming into this world, right? Not only are you being programmed and being predescribed to like join society and you're getting programmed by the matrix, but you're also kind of stuck with these assholes that gave birth to you that now you're just kind of beholden to
Mm.
why they're floating through their life doing what you're doing, and you have no autonomy, you have no ability to like make any decisions, you're just kind of going along with it. But when you made the decision to like come to the house, I remember being so excited, and I just felt like the one thing your mom and I had been talking about while we were going through this struggle, because you were going to your dad's, you were going through hell for the week, you were coming home, you were defragging, we were giving you a better environment. You looked like you were getting comfortable, like you were settling in.
Mhm.
And then about a day or so before you had to go back to your dad's, that switch would flip. You would go into this terrible mind state. You're preparing yourself for battle, essentially. And then you would go back over there. And so the one thing that your mom and I had talked about the whole time was we're never going to be able to tell you anything.
Mm.
We're never going to be able to explain to you like what's going on. But what we can do is we can be consistent in our behaviors. And we were hopeful that in enough time, you would see the difference
Mhm.
instead of us having to tell you the difference. And when you made the decision to not go back to your dad's, when you made the decision like, hey, this is where I want to be, I thought, victory! Like, yeah, we did it. We were consistent long enough that it produced the results that you were seeing that you wanted to be a part of.
Mhm.
I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
Not even not even
You
close.
weren't wrong about the reason why I chose to do it. Just
Okay.
there was definitely going to be way more aftermath. I think one of the biggest upsets about having bad parents or parents who are traumatizing you is that they've been traumatized themselves. They have their own poison and they are in that essentially a brainwashing. When I finally chose to go live with them full time, I was brainwashed. I had a bunch of trauma in my brain that I didn't know about. I have CPTSD from this and completely unaware. And so then I try to go in and try and be all healed and fixed and go into that space, and I'm not at all. And I'm not going to be able to be healed unless I am aware. And I look at that and I say, okay, I have these problems.
Right.
And I didn't do that at the time. I just went in thinking that I was going to live with y'all and everything was going to be better and it would never hurt
Mm,
me again without thinking about fixing the damage that I had already received.
yeah, because I know for me, it's like it felt like it really went downhill quick. Like I think we got like a month of that honeymoon period where everything was like really good, and then we started down this like year-long path of hell.
Yep.
I still describe this as potentially one of the worst moments of my life, by the way.
God.
The my 2024 with you and the family dynamic that was created for most of 2024 has to be one of the most challenging things that I have ever endured, period. Not alone as a parent. And you, I mean, you went through some shit, like legitimately. And you know, one of the things that that I realized at that time, and we're going to talk about some sensitive stuff as we go forward, was that just how programmed you were by your dad's thinking.
Mhm.
And I realized really quickly that we were essentially dealing with a mini version of your dad. And that was a very difficult thing for your mom to come to terms with because you know your mom just went through this relationship where she just got out of the relationship with your dad. She's determined like, you know, somebody gets to a point and they're like, "Hey, I don't really want to be a part of this person's life anymore."
Mhm.
And then what you don't realize when you have children that the two children are most likely going to be mirror representations of that other person.
Mhm.
And in your household, I think that that was definitely different. It was really heavy male patriarchy. Your dad was the guy, right? You want to explain that a little bit different?
It's a weird dynamic. So while yes, he was very heavy on the male patriarchal ideas and he definitely enforced that, I also that programming didn't really start till about the age 12, 13 when I started living with him full time. Until then, I had a very open-minded view, open-minded household. Everything went. Like I could dress up as a girl and my mom be okay with it and my dad wouldn't have to know. And so the programming really just started around that time, 12, 13. That's
Uh,
what I was clarifying.
Yeah, that's really common in a lot of families, isn't it? The whole hiding stuff from the other parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's like, if your kid's doing your kid's stuff, like, why wouldn't you want to know? But
Mm,
there was definitely a lot of that. And I know that the one thing that I took from your situation with your dad and your mom is your mom was in a you didn't understand that at the time, but was in a very abusive relationship. And you got to experience that abuse because once your mom went away, you became the target of that abuse. But you didn't realize it. So as you were getting abused, you are also still now performing the same abuse on your mother, which
mm.
had been kind of taught to you in your household dynamic.
Yeah, especially during the divorce. There were both my parents were alcoholics. My mom would regularly pass out in random places. So part of the I started getting indoctrinated by my dad because I had to take care of my mom. She would pass out in my bathroom or pass out outside and have to carry her in. Or he would get super drunk and then come sleep in my room to try and avoid my mom, even though he wanted to bring her in and cause drama. So that was that dynamic there.
It's a lot, right? And it's
Yeah.
not something that any kid should be subject to, but unfortunately, that is a reality, right? Because as much as we like to pretend that we are know-it-alls as parents, there is no manual. You don't get an owner's manual for like how to be a good parent. You really don't. You have no freaking clue. And most people, myself included in this space, was struggling to get by as a human myself, and when you're not put together on your own and the other person most likely isn't put together, because there are a couple of things here that I want to share with the audience that hopefully you guys understand that have been big learnings for me. One, if there is one person in the relationship that is super screwed up or toxic or whatever you want to call abusive, the other person can't be that far behind or they wouldn't be together. It takes two. And that doesn't I'm not giving any leeway to the victim here, because even though one person may be a victim to the abuse, the other person is still got things that are contributing to it. And if that wasn't the case, your mom wouldn't have spent the last 6 years with me healing and doing all of the stuff that we've done, right?
Mhm.
And I was guilty of the same thing, right? I was perpetuating shit.
Yep.
But the one thing that I wanted to circle back to that we had mentioned about how the children were treating the mom.
Mm.
It's really important to understand this, parents that are out there. Not only as humans do we teach people how to treat us, right? If you are tired of being a doormat, it's most likely, and I know this is challenging to hear, and I'm not trying to challenge you so much in this space, but it's most likely because you're teaching people how to treat you like a doormat. You're opening the door to be a doormat. You're opening the door to be treated a certain way, because as humans, we teach people how to treat us by what we will and won't accept as
Mhm.
appropriate behavior. But what I didn't realize is that we also are teaching our children how to treat others.
Mhm.
And that seems like, duh, how would you fucking not know that? But I didn't. I didn't realize that I was teaching my children how to behave to their mom by my own actions. And so the toxic traits that my kids picked up toward my ex-wife was a result of behaviors that they were not hearing me say,
Mhm.
but watching me do,
Yep.
and then they got adopted by them. And so now, just like your mom, here's my poor ex, and she's got out of this terrible, abusive, narcissistic relationship with me. And then the children are also trying to pull that stuff,
Mm.
right? And I can only imagine how difficult and hard that is for the kids that are coming out of these relationships to really be able to understand. It's like, oh, by the way, here's this behavior that you've been taught is acceptable. It's socially acceptable within your family dynamic, and even more so, like, socially acceptable. You just went through an event like that the other day. We don't have to talk about that now, but, like, family dynamics are weird, people, and we have normalized this very toxic, abusive behavior in society, and that is going to impact your children, and it impacted Maddox, it impacted his mother. Your older brother suffers from the same issue.
Yep.
And the only difference is he hasn't worked on getting past that.
Yeah, and he has a lot more that went on to cause his trauma in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of compounding external circumstances that relied there. But, I want to circle back to the thing you were talking about, the alcoholism.
Mhm.
I was also an alcoholic. When your mom and I first got together, we were both raging alcoholics.
Yep.
How did that impact you?
Um, you being an alcoholic never really impacted me. It never caused me annoyance. I think the only part that I've ever gotten mad when it came to you and her being alcoholics once we moved into Hillsborough was that you wouldn't stop. That was the
Mm,
only annoyance I had would be, "Hey guys, you told me you were gonna stop X date. You still haven't. Hey guys, you got so on and so forth."
right.
But aside from that, no, that didn't ever really affect me because I was constantly a hermit. You never saw me.
And do you think that's because it was normal to you?
Probably. I
Okay.
had already been used to and everyone in my family being an alcoholic. My brother was a druggie and he would get drunk. My mom was a druggie. She would get drunk.
Yeah, so it's just kind of normal,
Yeah,
you know?
everyone did it.
Now, the one thing that I do think that I did well, even though I definitely suffered from alcoholism, is I felt like when I got drunk, I didn't get violent or abusive. I think your mom and I would definitely get in our big fights, but I was also feeling at that time that I was doing a good job of keeping that away from you and the other children. How did you perceive that? Was there any truth to that at all? Was I really hiding it, or were you fully aware?
We were always fully aware of the fights, but when you're screaming at
Mm,
the top of your lungs, there's no way for us to not be. If you're
that was your mom, not me.
true, true, but still tells me about the fights going on. But yeah, no, you did a great job of trying to keep it away from us. Especially if we tried to intervene, it would always be a no, go away. This is our drama. This is our fight. Get away. Which,
Okay,
comparing that to my past, my dad would actively try to get me in those conversations. So I'd say
okay.
you did a great job comparatively.
Well, fair enough. So even alcoholic me was doing a few things right.
Hmm.
And that I
You're doing plenty right.
oh, thank you. But that's a great point for the audience. I said that before in one of the other videos where I was talking about regret and how you could look back in your life and you can really regret the person that you were, but you really can't do that because you do truly have to understand the person that you are at every stage, no matter how you want to define yourself, good, bad, otherwise, is responsible for making the decisions that lead to the outcomes that get you to a point of life where you feel like you are in a better space.
Hmm.
So even the alcoholic, narcissistic, abusive person that I was still making good decisions in certain spaces that eventually led to something better.
Hmm.
Now, how did you feel when I stopped drinking? Did you know when your mom and I had quit?
Um, Not the exact moment. I think the only reason I even knew about it would be I didn't see you guys drinking anymore. You guys definitely started smoking more for a minute there, and I know that weed definitely took over, but that was probably the biggest sign was you guys started going to weed instead of alcohol very heavily.
Yeah, I 100% replaced alcohol with weed, and, that was, a change that, I've still made, right?
Mhm,
And so I don't enjoy alcohol anymore. Now, my relationship as a recovering alcoholic is a little different than a lot of people's. I don't have a desire to drink. I don't have like, I never sit around. I mean, every once in a great while, I'm like, I want a beer. Oh, and I'll say that to you. I was like, man, I really want a beer, but I don't want the health you know,
yeah,
it's like it's just so unhealthy. Otherwise, it's like I really wouldn't mind having a beer today, right?
mhm,
But I can have that beer, and I am not somebody who's going to go back to the bottle. I've been able to kind of break that chain in my life. So you seen us start using the marijuana, like the cannabis, right?
mhm,
And so we got into that really heavy there for a minute. It started with me with the edibles, and then
yeah,
I died. I was like the worst high person ever. I would just go comatose and I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything. It was so bad.
do you care if I share the bathroom story?
Oh, please do. Please
Oh my
do.
god. So he got so high one night that he was going to the bathroom. It's like 12 a.m., I believe. And he's fiddling with the door and he's fiddling with the door some more and he locks himself in the bathroom and he can't get it open. He has no clue that he's locked it. So he spends like 10 minutes just trying to get it open. And eventually to my memory, you ended up just sitting down on the door and waiting for your mom to come get it for you.
My mom.
Or my
Oh,
bad,
yeah,
my mom,
your
sorry.
mom. My mom. I was like, what was my mom doing at my house at midnight?
You have no clue. My bad.
I was like, what did this
No.
happen? I was like, did this happen at my mom's house? Like, I was all confused.
Could have. I don't know about that story.
Yeah, the introduction to weed was rough. Like
Yeah.
rough. I was like staring at doorknobs. I like couldn't figure out how to like make a doorknob work. Like my brain had
Trying to use telepathy.
no, and just you will open. But it worked a few hours later when somebody opened it. Yeah, I willed that to happen. Manifest.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm, totally.
100%. So yeah, I went down that road, then we got really heavy into, like, the day smoking, and then that became a thing. We went through a period of, like, 6, 8 months of really doing, like, this high from, like, get up to go to bed,
Mhm,
and then eventually, we kinda settled over time had settled into, like, where we are today where, like I've shared with you guys, is I still get high, it's usually a nightcap for me. At the end of my night, I'll have an edible or maybe I'll smoke a spliff or something like that, or a resin pen or whatever I decide to do. But it's a once a day, usually an evening. I've gotten to the point that all of my responsibilities are done for the most part,
Mm,
you know, and you've seen me do that. Like if there are still responsible things to do, I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait.
yeah.
You know, I really don't want to be messing with this stuff why I'm not 100% where I want to be.
Mm.
And so that was the thing. So you really didn't mind the cannabis then?
No, I also was introduced to the cannabis first through hape. For anyone who doesn't know what hape is, it is a tobacco that you snort. It is from, I believe, South America.
Yeah, it's mopache.
Okay, mopachu. Sorry,
Hmm.
but my first introduction to cannabis was those hape ceremonies where I'd just come downstairs and watch, and everyone would be getting high from pipes, and then the pipes went to the edibles, and then you went back to pipe, and then you went to edibles. It swaps pretty often.
Yeah. So for the audience out there that doesn't know, a hape ceremony is a ceremony that you do with cannabis and tobacco, typically.
Mhm,
And it is a deep journey meditation, essentially, where you are performing a ceremony very similar to what you would see at a sit at ayahuasca or, you know, a psilocybin sit if it's performed, you know, in traditional practices like a Shipibo style kind of thing.
mhm,
And so the hot ceremonies are very similar to that, but you use this very powerful tobacco that is a mild hallucinogen, and so is the cannabis. You know, people don't realize that cannabis does have hallucinogenic properties. So when you combine the two together, you get this very mild psychedelic style experience that will aid in your ability to go into a deeper meditation to get into some of that stuff. And so, yeah, you were definitely a witness to some of those things and getting to see hape ceremonies and stuff. We were doing that pretty regular, you know, once a month or so for a while. So, hey, did you find that weird? What was your thoughts on that? Seeing that from the outside?
honestly, I always found it kind of fun because you grow up never really seeing any tribal like stuff anymore in our modern day and age. So that kind of reminded me of like a tribal vibe, which I really enjoyed that because I was a quirky, weird kid. I always enjoyed the irregular things of life, and I viewed that as a very irregular, cool thing.
Ah,
So
fair.
I actually really liked it.
That's cool. Well, you were definitely a hipster.
Oh, 100%.
I
Still
mean,
am.
not as bad. Not
That's
I
fair. I was definitely more
you're a
hipster back
hipster that I can stand to be around now.
fair
You were
back then.
you were a terrible hipster. You were like, if it was even remotely normal,
I hated
you hated it.
it.
Hated it. He had the
It's
most obscure stuff you could ever imagine all the time. Well, so we come down the road and then we hit this catalyst, right? There was a moment. When did that moment change? You know, you're living with your dad, you're in this split family, you're in a blended family, you're watching us kind of go through our stages of healing, you're seeing weird shit coming into the house, you're seeing cannabis, the alcohol leaves, the hot bay ceremonies and stuff start coming in, and life feels a little weird for you, I would imagine.
yeah,
It's getting kind of like, how the hell did I get here?"
especially with the dynamics between my dad and your guys' place. It was polar opposites in every way.
Yeah, because he was 100% against plant medicine. He was all the stuff, right?
He was such a preacher of how bad plant medicine is for you, how terrible and how it can ruin your life, how alcohol is better in every way.
And he gives you the DARE program. Like,
Yep, actually.
you're like,
Oh
I
my
have that
god.
shirt. I have that shirt. I wear that camping. It's this DARE shirt. It's great.
Hate it.
But he's giving you the DARE program. Like, this is your brain on drugs, you know? And with no real conceptual understanding of like why we're doing what we're doing, what is the actual effects of it.
Mm.
From the outside looking in, did it just look like a lot of fun?
Um,
Or did it look like we were doing work?
it looked like you were doing work, especially at the ceremonies, because they were treated very prestigiously, especially with how Will would always do them. He would set his sigils, he would set the walls, everyone would have these big come-togethers. So it definitely felt more like work rather than fun, especially comparing it to my experience of like watching my brother get high. That was a lot more rowdy and like, oh, that's fun.
So there was a definite difference from an outside perspective, even with no understanding between what recreational use and what medicine use looked like.
There's a very
Okay.
large difference. And you can notice it almost instantly based on how the person is acting.
Mm.
Like, my brother would get very erratic when he got high, and he would be very high energy, whereas in this space, everyone was very low, chill, like, not worrying and they're not anxiety fueled.
Right. Yeah, if we weren't in the fetal position crying, right? Like, everything
Mhm.
was fine.
That was one of the Uh, that was definitely one of the biggest things about plant medicine is if you meet someone who is high and they seem like a bad person while they are high, like they're very anxiety based or they have a lot of anger, that is just a reflection of their inside. That's not the drug making
Mhm.
them do that. That's just them.
Yeah, alcohol's the same way, right?
Yep.
Everybody messes that one up. They always think, alcohol makes me a bad person. No, you're already a bad
Just
person.
you.
It just gets rid of your mask and then you just become a bad person openly.
Mhm.
So that's what these substances are doing. If you are taking a substance that is mind altering, whether it be alcohol or cannabis or anything else, the odds are what it's going to expose is it's going to pull your mask down. We all wear masks to go into society. When I went to my business, I called them hats, right? Well, I got my business owner hat on, and then I put my podcast hat on, and then, I had hats for everything, but they were just masks. They were fake personas that I was putting on that I thought were matching certain social interactions at appropriate points in time.
Mhm.
There was no authenticity to it at all.
Yeah.
How did you, as a child living around somebody who was actively doing that, what did you think about the versions of me that you were seeing, and did that create any confusion with you?
For me, sometimes because we would go from like, let's say, a stern talking, and then you're back to your teddy bear face, and then you're back to your stern face, and then back to your teddy bear face. That dynamic was definitely a little weird. But I was also dealing with the masks I would see at school. When you're around anyone, if they wear a mask, you are fielding that energy 24/7. Whether
Mhm.
they're aware of it or you're aware of it, you still are mimicking and watching that happen. And so I think the hardest part about dealing with masks for me was that I started mimicking it and doing it myself.
Mm.
And then I made a mask for every person and every single person. Oh, I've got my Miley hat on. I've got my Jack hat on. I've got my teacher's here. I got my teacher hat on.
Oh, so isn't that interesting? And I didn't really understand that until you just said that.
Mhm,
It's here you are, you're a young child, you're seeing something that looks like abnormal behavior. And instead of rejecting it, instead of saying, why is this person completely different versions of their self? There's no authenticity to this person. Why are they one way behind closed doors and another way in public?
mhm.
Instead of seeing that and going, well, something's wrong here,
Yep.
you went, "Oh, I can do that too."
Yep.
Oh, the Matrix, the Matrix.
It
It's the
corrupts so easy.
programming. But then that becomes your shit now.
Mhm,
Like, you just added on a layer of bullshit to your life that did nothing but cause you pain,
mhm.
and then started hurting all the people around you.
Yes. And I think another thing to add on to how bad masks can be, well, I'm a caveat and play devil's advocate for both sides. Masks can be good. Like if you're a very anxiety fuel person, you have social anxiety or things similar, to know how to compartmentalize and calm those things down is a lot better. But that's the difference. There's a mask where you pretend, and then there's compartmentalization where you are aware of the emotion and you're recognizing it and saying, I don't need that right now.
Mhm.
Masks can cause complete depersonalization. They can cause you to forget who you are. They can cause so much pain and annoyance, especially for whoever you're meeting, too. Let's say you do have a mask for every person you meet. Well, if those people ever meet and you make a friend group, well, all three of those people know you as a completely different human, and all three of those people like you for completely different reasons. And then when they come together and they all go, wait a minute, we all know different people, then they all just leave because you're not the same person. You're not real. You were just
Mm.
faking the entire time.
Yeah, and see, you just highlighted, like, one of the major issues in relationships out there.
Mhm.
Right? My biggest complaint that girlfriends had on me, and even both of my ex-wives said the same thing. "Well, when your friends come around, you're a completely different person."
Mhm.
Ah, why? Because I was wearing masks, and then I was obviously becoming a different person, but we've normalized that. We've made that a social normality,
Mhm.
and in your explanation there, it's like, "Oh, you get to see the root cause of that."
Yep.
Like, where does that start? Where if that started in middle school? It
Mhm.
started with your friends. It started with watching and mimicking your parents' behavior.
Yeah, that's especially when I started mimicking the most. I was decently fine at 6th grade. I was still a teacher's pet. I was very much so that, like, innocent young child I was growing up. And then after 6th grade, it all went downhill. The masks came on, the different personalities came on, and it was all just figments of other people's stuff that I was taking.
And why do you think that is?
We're constant reflections of everyone around us. I can't remember the quote. It's either 5 or 3. You are your closest 5 or 3 people. You
5.
are a reflection of them at all
Mhm.
times in every way. So, if you're constantly around toxic people, well, you're either gonna inhibit their toxic behaviors or you're gonna inhibit self-destructive behaviors so that more toxic people can be around you.
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest fears. We live in a world where our hunters are narcissists, are self-absorbed people who hunt those who care about other people, and that's how we get more toxic people.
Yeah, we definitely have a prey-driven society
Mhm.
where, people are out there looking for other people to prey on, whether they realize that or not.
Yep.
We call it compatibility, but a lot of times what it is, it's like, well, we have all these toxic traits and all these toxic behaviors, and we found somebody that would just put up with our shit. Right?
Mm.
That's a very common thing. I'm so glad my wife puts up with my shit. Well, maybe you should be responsible for not giving your shit.
Mhm. Be aware of it.
Yeah, right? Like maybe that should be something that you would consider like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that. Um so where was the turning point then? Where was the turning point that you got to that you were like, "You know what? I know these people are crazy, but I think I kind of want to be crazy like them."
Um, I think it would come after one really big fight. I had came back from my dad's. I had been doing the same asshole shit I had already been doing, and we were already having a very rough week. His kids were causing a bunch of pain and damage for him. They were stealing, they were doing all sorts of shit. And I hit a breaking point, and I ended up being extremely rude to them. And this caused a very large fight, and it involved me getting all of my stuff taken away. And then they also went on a small trip during that time, and I got about 4 days of alone time. No phone, no computer, no games. Journaling was all I had.
Mm,
Notebooks, that's it. And after 4 days of having just your thoughts, you kind of have to look inward. You have to just be okay with those thoughts because they're constantly rattling around. There's nothing to distract me. There's nothing taking my bandwidth anymore.
mm,
And that's what allowed me to really look inside and go, okay, I have been fucking up. Oh, I'm not the same person anymore. I've ruined my life here. I need to fix this.
mm.
Because growing up, I was an innocent, and I say innocent, I mean, those overly optimistic people that are just like go getters in every way when they're trying to just be positive for everyone?
Right.
That was the definition of me.
Mhm.
That's just who I was at that time.
Yeah.
And then as I grew up, I became the exact opposite. I was a sadist in many ways. I was a narcissist in many ways. I was a player for a little bit, which was a whole other thing. But that's what really allowed me to see all that was I had those days alone. I had those days to just think.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. So, I'm gonna try to interpret this. You tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Yep.
So, it sounds like to me, what you just described is you were remembering the authentic you.
Mhm.
The little kid that exists within you. We all talk about going back to our inner child. You were remembering your inner child, and you had this epiphany where by spending enough time with yourself, you would recognize that the social programming of the world that you were adopting had fundamentally changed who you were to a point that you were starting not to recognize yourself.
Correct. I also need to clarify one thing. It wasn't just sitting by myself that helped me, but also during that fight, my mom ended up saying something to me that really hurt me. And that's what really caused me to think there was we were fighting, we're yelling. And she goes, "What happened to my kid? Where's my baby boy? You're not my child. This isn't the child I raised. This isn't the child I know." And
Mm,
that's what really it broke the ice for me because I was like, okay, if this is really that bad, something's wrong here.
yeah. Yeah. And no, so that was way sooner than I had anticipated. So you now we're talking that had to still be 2023.
Yeah, around there.
That was before a hell year.
Yep.
What the hell happened? Could we not continue the progress?
You can be aware of these things, but one of the hardest parts about coming from narcissistic trauma or mental abuse is that you don't know what's going on. Your
Mm,
memories are a blur, your emotions are a blur. You'll get triggered by things that you don't even know what's going on. Like I would regularly get overfilled with rage. Like all I couldn't even think. I was ready to slam my head into a wall
mhm,
24/7 if I ever got triggered in any way. You could say hi to me, and if it sounded even remotely like my dad coming in to fuck with me, I would have lost my shit and gone crazy.
mm. So it's interesting. So you were able to come up with an awareness that like, hey, something is wrong. But that just the awareness of it necessarily didn't put you to the point where you're like, man, maybe I should fix this.
Well, it wasn't even just that. It was also, how do I fix this? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's actually wrong with me. I don't
Oh.
know what was going on. Like at that time, I didn't even know I was lying still. I was a pathological liar and I didn't even know. I
Mm.
thought I was always telling truth because I lied to myself and I pretended to me.
Yeah, that's the killer, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you lie to yourself and you convince yourself that you're telling the truth and really it's just a lie the whole time.
Hmm.
Those have been some of the hardest understandings that I've had because it's like, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then but then eventually at some point when I get really honest with myself, I'm like, oh, I did
Yeah.
do that. Fuck. Okay. Well, that makes me an asshole.
Yep.
Like,
It's the worst realizations, but the best.
But yeah, you have to have that realization for there to be a point where progress starts to happen,
Mhm.
right?
100%.
Because if you don't get to this point, then I said that in the methodology of a growth mindset video.
Mhm.
Like if you don't get to a point where you understand that you are the problem, you have no chance of fixing this.
Yep.
None. You will stay with everyone else as the problem for the rest of that time until you get to the point to where you have to like raise your hand and be like, "It's me."
Yep.
That's why they tell you at like AA meetings, what's the first step? You have to admit that you're an alcoholic. You have
Mhm.
to admit that you're an addict. Because if you can't say that, if you can't admit that you have a problem, you have no chance of fixing it. It
Mhm.
is none. So you go down the road like a year,
Yep.
right? And so no change. Epiphany happens. Now you weren't really communicating with us in this time. Did you start talking to us about things? Because you had mentioned journaling. Where did you get the idea to start journaling?
So journaling I had already been doing for a little bit. I have always had terrible penmanship, and at the time, I would journal to cope with my problems. I would just pretend that someone else was inside me, and I would talk to them, and that's
Mm,
what gave me a lot of solace. Um, it was I would do it very on and off. It would be like I'd journal 3 times a month. I think my
mm,
biggest helper was jumping. I would jump on a trampoline for hour, 2 hours almost every night, and if I didn't ever do that, I would go a little bonkers because that was my version of meditation. I have
mm.
always been a very high active kid, even though I didn't do anything, I still had a body that wanted to do things, and that's what allowed me to meditate and really look inside a little more and
Yeah,
get those emotions out.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I thought the same thing. The trampoline really benefited your mental health.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be in these shit moods and then you'd go outside, you come in like 2 hours later and you'd be like all normal.
Yep.
And I was just like, put them back on the trampoline. But it was definitely a huge benefit in
Mhm.
that space. So let's fast forward and go back to hell year
Okay.
because hell year was terrible. You
Yeah.
you were, in my opinion, you were doing everything that you could to self-sabotage the relationship between your mom and I.
100%. I had been hand taught how to by
Yeah.
my dad.
Eh,
That is one of the most despicable things that I still think has ever happened to me was my dad used me as a weapon against my mom. He brain I hate saying brainwashed because in these areas, when you're a kid, it's a lot more applicable. You can be brainwashed. When you're an adult, you have to let
adults are still brainwashed, brother.
True.
It happens. It happens.
100% agree with that.
We can't watch the world today and not understand
That's fair.
that one.
Definitely think it's harder to brainwash an adult, though.
I would argue with that. Yeah, yeah,
Eh,
possible. We'll just go with that for right now.
that's fair. I agree. But he had used me again as a weapon against her because he was constantly just trying to play the game. He just wanted to constantly fight, constantly fight, constantly fight. And then I got that from him. And then watching their divorce and watching them fight constantly. And then I just mimicked it throughout the entire process because I was just reflecting him.
Mhm.
And then I would butt heads with my mom constantly because you got to think I'm reflecting both of their behaviors while talking to both of them at the same time periods.
Right.
So constant fighting between both parents because when I mimicked my dad at my mom's, I'd fight with my mom. And when I mimicked my mom at my dad's, I'd fight with dad.
Oh, and you just mimic the other parent and just
Mhm.
kinda put that out there. I know for me, I was so confused for months. It probably took me the better part of 5 to 6 months before I really started to, like, get an idea of, like, what the hell was going on, because I couldn't understand it. I I was so, like, on cloud 9 because you had made the decision to live with us full time, and we just had that, like, honeymoon month, and everything went great, and everything was going great, and then the next thing you know, it just felt like self-sabotage at every corner, and you were fighting with your mom constantly, which as soon as you'd start fighting with your mom, that ruined my day.
Mhm.
Like, my day was shit after that. It was just like, "Okay, well, here we go." This is what today is gonna look like, and you were lying, you were being manipulative, you were doing all of these things, but, at the beginning of that, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
I knew that later once I caught you in the first lie, then it was very easy for me to start finding the other lies, but up until I had caught the first one, I really wasn't aware you were lying.
What was the first one you ended up
Oh, I don't even freaking remember anymore. The only thing that I'll commend myself for, the one habit that I have developed over the years, to deal with uh, unfavorable behavior from people is when I find out that somebody has lied to me, I will typically not call them out on their lie.
Mm,
Because what's the number one rule with the narcissist? If you know their game, you can't tell them that you know their game, because what's the first thing they're going to do?
they're gonna swap it up.
They're going to swap up the game, right? And if you don't know what they're swapping to, well, now you're back to square one again.
Mhm.
So what I did, it was like, okay, I've caught you. I'm aware that you were being deceitful. Maybe I don't know to what extent, but I'm not going to call you out on it. What I'm going to do is be aware of it. And now I'm going to start watching you because I know you're lying, but you don't know that I know you're lying.
Mhm.
And so in that event, I have the upper hand.
Yep, it keeps you safe.
Right. Now I can start navigating this relationship where you think everything is the same thing we've been doing, but really I'm now dissecting everything, looking for like, okay, where's the problems here? What's actually happening?
Mhm.
And then it took me about 4 to 5 months when I really finally got the idea. It was like, "Oh, you're manipulating us. You're deliberately creating the situations. You're deliberately lying. You're deliberately doing these things." And then we started to address it, and that was around, like, mid-year, like,
Yeah, about
about the summer, right?
right
And
when I got out of school
and
during that year.
and for me, that's when shit got dangerous because that's when I started to realize, I remember very clearly we had the fight one night. And I think I yelled at you. I think I got pretty pissed off and finally just like dad moded your ass.
Mm.
Like I just like dressed you down. And it was like one of the first times that I finally just got to like, I'm just over your shit.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's because I was constantly trying you guys had told me to just finally go to my room, and then I constantly kept coming outside and staying in, like, the egg chair, and
Yeah. And like literally picking fights.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I was just like, I'm gonna kill you at some point. But I remember you got a look on your face. I could feel your energy. I could see your body posture. And you walked back to your room. And then we didn't hear a peep from you for the rest of the night. And I do not know why. I think it's just either I had gotten to a point to where I was really starting to understand energetic awareness, or it was because I have been around a lot of violence in the military and in other spaces in my life. But like when we went to bed that night, I told your mom, I said, I know this is your child, but I'm telling you right now, we need to lock the door
Oh,
and we need to make sure that we pick up anything that looks like a weapon in the house." And she goes, "No, that's ridiculous." And I said, "No, it's not ridiculous." I said, "The people get killed by their kids all the time. And I'm telling you right now, I feel in danger. I do not want to go to sleep tonight with that door unlocked. Like, that's it."
mm.
And I wasn't wrong, was I?
You were in my scenario, that not because I didn't have bad thoughts, but because I'd never be able to act on them, even back then.
Fair.
I
But you were thinking about it.
uh,
You said you've admitted to fantasizing about killing me.
oh, I fantasized about killing everyone in our family.
Fair.
But he also had justified reason to think this. I did actively used to go in their room and steal shit, or just I used to sleepwalk really badly, and one of my behaviors would be I'd just walk in the room and just stare. And I'd stand at the end of the bed and stare at them.
Oh,
That would scared the shit out of him one
dude,
night.
completely unrelated story, but one of the most terrifying moments in my life happened with Dakota.
Hmm.
Okay, Dakota was like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old, something like that. I'm laying in my bed, and I wake up in the middle of the night. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and she is standing at the end of our bed, like half awake, half asleep. She's not moving, and so I wake up and I'm like, I realized like there's a figure at the end of the bed, and then I was like, oh, I recognize that figure. That looks like my child. Why is my child looking at me like that? Like, I was just like, "This," and then I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she's like, "Huh? Go to your room." And so, yeah, you did that a few times too. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I was like, "Get out of our room." And you were like, "Mer, mer, 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 mer," and I was like, "Now I'm not going back to bed. Thank you." Yeah, so yeah, kids. Holy shit, man. Parenting is hard. It's scary. Like, but that was a legitimate like moment, like turning point in my life. Like realizing that like you were getting to that level of like anger and frustration
Hmm.
and really starting to feel like threatened in our home. Like because I didn't know what you were going to do.
I
You know,
was hitting a very heavy breaking point.
yeah, and we could see that, and we could see that, and then we go like fast forward like another 6 months.
Hmm.
Shit has not improved.
It's
Uh,
almost gotten worse.
Oh my gosh, it was getting well. I think it did get worse.
Yeah.
It either got worse, or we got so tired of dealing with it that it had just like the cup just kept filling up,
Yeah.
and then finally it just went over, right? And so, spoiler alert, your mom and I blow up like
Oh, hell week.
hell week, like level 10.
Got smoked.
Like you get rid of every idea of friendly parenting. And we went the polar opposite extreme of that.
Yep.
You fought us the whole time.
Yep.
And then finally, at the last time, we broke and we threatened to kick you out.
Yep.
Yep.
And then I broke at the same time.
And went to your room, and it was like a weekend, wasn't it? Like we let you sit with this for like a few days.
Yeah, it was on a Friday. You said I had till Monday.
Yeah, and then Monday we were packing your shit. We sent you to your room. We told you pack your shit, get everything ready to go that you want to take to your dad's. We're gonna take you to your dad's on Monday, and if this is what you want, then you're gonna get it.
Hmm.
Essentially, right? If this is how you want to be, if this is what you want to do, you're going to go do it, but you're not going to come here and do this here anymore.
Mm.
And then for the audience, for the parents out there, I really need to share some stuff that behind the scenes. And this is maybe stuff that I hadn't even shared with Maddox yet. This was one of the hardest decisions that his mom and I had ever had to get to. We were emotionally and physically exhausted. We had reached the end of our rope as a parent, and we knew that on the other side of this was this terrible, toxic human being that was going to dramatically change and alter the course of his life for the rest of it, or a good portion of it. And we knew that by us giving up, we were giving him to the lions essentially. Like,
Mhm.
you know, we were putting you out to pasture. Like we knew that. We knew that. And we were also in the process of learning at that point of our life this concept and idea of living in love. Everybody talks about this, and I really want to use this moment to like just kind of soapbox for a second. But this idea of living in love or being loved really gets misunderstood. What we did when we yelled at him, when we threatened him, when we did all of the hard parenting, that was in love. Love is not always nice and kind.
Can be best love.
Dude, I'm telling you right. You want to see love? Go find a bear with cubs. Now attack a cub. You know what that mom is going to do? She's going to kill you out of love. She's going to eat you and love her child the whole time that she's doing it. So love can be incredibly forceful.
Mm.
It can be violent. It could be defensive, but it's strong. And when we made that decision, it was just like, can we really do this? Is this the right answer? Is this the right thing to do to just give up and send him on his way? And so we had decided that, you know what? If we are going to live in love and we are going to be love, love comes with grace, love comes with forgiveness, love comes with chances.
Mhm.
And so your mom and I had talked and I just told your mom, I said, I don't think we can do this. I said, we need to at least create an option for this to go the other direction.
Mhm.
We need to at least it's been a few days. We've had the war. It's been a few days. The ceasefires went on. Now we need to come back and we need to like really have a conversation about like, do we want to keep doing this? Or is this going to be the final decision?
Mhm.
And then we went back to you and then we were like, hey, we love you very much. And we really don't want to do this.
Mm.
But here's the deal: the lying, the manipulation, the backstabbing, the all of the stuff that was going on, that's got to stop. And if you want to stay here and we're letting you know the door is open, you can stay. But staying comes with conditions. And the conditions are that has got to stop and you have to start making changes.
Mhm.
Because you were telling us the whole time that you wanted to do this and that you wanted to grow. And I think that was the other thing too, is you were playing the healing card against us
Mhm.
most of that year. Like we were trying to help you, we were teaching you about journaling and we were doing different things to help your mental health and giving you tips and tricks and trying to share new perspectives and new ways of being and all of that stuff. And you were just eating it up,
Mhm.
but using it against us in a manipulative way.
Because I also wasn't in a space to be able to heal. I was still actively talking with my abuser. I was still actively going to my abuser's home. So I couldn't
Mm.
use any of the healing info that I was getting because I was still being abused. I was still going through that motion.
Oh, now here's a question. Then, when you did finally make the decision to start, so you got all this advice that you didn't listen to,
Mhm.
and then you finally made a decision to start. Did you have to rehear the advice again, or did that old advice, did we plant the seed and then it grew?
Um, Planted the seed, then it grew. But then it was also a very joint effort. I was constantly having to go to them and have them call me out when I was doing things wrong. A
Mm,
lot of the times behaviors that you can't fix on your own, if you have someone close enough who's willing to give you that rough love in love, then you'll be able to heal a lot easier.
mm,
And that's what really helped me is that I didn't really notice these things when I was doing them. I would lie, but I didn't know I was lying. I believed it just as I was thinking you were. And then you
right.
tell me I was lying. I was like, oh. And that's what really helped me dissect myself there.
And then start to get some awareness and like understanding.
Hmm.
So, how did you take us coming back? I mean, I don't think you were expecting a second chance.
I was really hoping for it, but no. I was also really shell shocked at that moment. That was way worse than anything I was expecting to come.
Yeah,
I was really expecting like everything to get taken away or something similar to that, not getting kicked out. So that kind of just broke me.
yeah,
And my room was already a mess at that time. Like there was shit scattered everywhere. And I'm just sitting on my bed, just like not knowing
yeah.
what to do.
It's like the proverbial overplaying your hand.
Mm.
Like, yeah.
Don't bite
Uh,
the hand that feeds you.
yeah, truth. But so you get the second chance. How's it received by you?
Uh, it at first was received very well, mainly, and I gotta say mainly because mom was crying during this, and that's what really kind of snapped all masks and brought out little me again. Because my mom was crying, and anytime I see that, I'm just like, oh shit, fuck, damn it, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's what really helped bring my eyes to my bad behavior.
So it pulled on those heartstrings a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. But if you really do truly care about someone and you've caused them emotional turmoil, it should bother you.
Yeah.
That I think that's like a good thing. It shows that you're not a psychopath. That you have some type of internal compass where you're like, "Oh man, I'm feeling guilty right now," or "This makes me sad." I'm having an appropriate emotional response to the situation that I have caused,
Mhm.
you know? And so that I definitely think is an important thing. And so that's interesting because I perceive that differently. To me, I thought what we did for you in that moment, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought what we did for you in that moment is like that was the moment that you realized like we actually love you. Like I didn't feel like up until then you really thought all of the I love yous were just fake or just like hyperbole or just words.
Mhm.
But in that moment, you got that like realization that like we do really love you.
I think that's definitely when that seed was planted for a decent while, maybe 2, 3 months after that fight. I still very much so thought that you guys were lying, and that there was a lot of trust issues I was having during that time period. But you are right, 100%.
No, fair.
It wasn't like a full realization, like, "Oh, they do love me." It was like "Okay, maybe they're not lying. It's a better option than my dad. I at least know he's lying 100%. I don't know about these guys."
Right. No, that's fair. And that's a good perspective because, not always our behaviors as parents that we interpret them to be is how they're received.
Mhm,
If there's anything that I've learned in the last 6 years as I have been dissecting my behaviors and dissecting my actions, one of the core lessons that I've learned along the way is how you think you are behaving means nothing because your behavior, regardless of your intention, your behavior, your actions are the only thing that matters because your actions are going to make somebody else feel a certain way. And they're going to create feelings and things that are valid and justified in that other human. And one of the things that we like to do as society is we like to tell people that they are not allowed to feel the way that they feel. I went over here, I acted a certain way, I made this person upset, I made this person mad, I hurt them, whatever the case may be, put your own label on it. And then that person comes to me and says, I am upset with you. And then I spend the rest of my time being defensive, explaining to them why I didn't mean it that way and they're being too sensitive and they shouldn't feel that way.
mhm.
That's terrible, guys. And everyone out there, I'm sure that resonated with a lot of people if it's not something that you're still doing to your spouse or your children today or others. You have to be responsible for the consequences of your actions and your behaviors and your words, regardless of what your intention is,
Mhm,
because those things are going to be received by other people, and how they are received by other people. In most cases, there are always people that take things that are not applicable. And so you can wipe the board on some of that. But in most instances, especially with people that love you, you are responsible for how you are making them feel.
mhm.
If you're making them feel not heard, if you're making them feel, less than or put down, or if you're making them feel controlled or not loved or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like you hear that with the love thing all the time, but I love you. I tell you I love you all the time. Isn't that enough?
Doesn't matter if you're actively stabbing them still, if you're still making
Yep.
them hurt, you're not loving them, you're just hurting them, and you're loving the fact you get to hurt them.
Yep. Yeah. See, you love them.
Mhm,
And then because you love them, you think that they should feel loved regardless of your behavior.
mhm.
Well, I just explained 90% of what's wrong in most families in America, at least. I don't have enough experience outside of America to know the family units that exist outside of here. But I know that in the classical American family unit, that's a huge issue. That is a huge issue. And that is also what people use to justify why they're the worst versions of themselves at home behind closed doors.
Mhm.
And that's a good question there. Like, how do you feel about that conversation? You definitely grew up in a home where your parents were the worst that version of themselves behind closed doors. We may have been, and I'll let you answer this, we may have been at some point. Do you still feel that way? Do you feel like there's more consistency? Have you noticed a change in the behind closed doors behavior and the public behavior?
Comparing it to now at times, 100% in almost every single way, both in my own behavior and in your and my mom's behavior. It has become much more consistent, much more calm, and if things do erupt, it's handled more delicately. It's not a fight now, it's a, "Okay, guys, we've gotten upset, we're fumed up, let's calm down, steam
Mhm.
down, and then we can talk after."
Yeah. Well, you started communicating.
That
You know how
that's
much
a big
you
help.
know how much easier parenting becomes when I can just sit down and be like, "Yo, bro,
But a big thing
let's have a talk."
You're think the big thing that helped me start communicating though was you started communicating and mom started communicating. It's a two-way
Mhm.
street. If you always expect your child to just listen and to never want to hear your side of things, you're probably wrong in that area.
Yeah.
It's always a two-lane street. Your child should talk to you and you should talk to your child. If you never talk to them, they're not knowing what it's like to have healthy communication.
Well, it was so hard for me. Like, it was so hard for me to open up to you
Mm,
because I was coming from this world and, like, managers are this way, and I do this sometimes still in my classrooms. Like, if I get an email from a student and that student or I'm wrong, I need to be careful sometimes in certain environments before I admit that I am wrong, right? Because especially like if I'm in a position of authority or something like that, like I don't want to kick open a door that's going to create more problems than whatever I've done.
mhm,
It's like I would rather just not acknowledge it and fix the problem and move on than to acknowledge something that could potentially upset the power dynamic in the space. And so there are very few instances in my life where I still utilize that. And most of that is in like work environments. But my problem is I was parenting this way. It was just like, well, dad can't be wrong.
mhm.
Dad can't say this. Dad can't do that. I have to be above bar all the time. And then the other side of that is like, well, you can't see me cry. You can't see me go through this. Like you can see anger. Anger was the only acceptable emotion. Like I was either happy or I was angry. There was no in between emotions because it's like I either had to be the life of the party or I had to be the mean dad, Midwestern asshole, rah. And that was my two modes when I was a parent because I didn't want to do that. And your mom had gave me some of the best advice and and I think it was reiterated in other spaces by because it's pretty common wisdom at least in my life anymore, as the algorithm has changed my feeds, right? But it's this idea that you're raising these kids to go out into the world and you're raising them to become young adults and you're raising them to go through the most trialing time of their life, which is that early adolescence right out because you have nothing. You walk out of mom and dad's house, you can't make money, you don't own anything. Like everything from that moment forward is a grind. And they're going to go through ups and downs. They're going to have financial issues and they're going to get evicted and they're going to get sick and they're going to get pregnant. And like life is going to happen just like it happened for us. But the problem is, if you're out there and you're one of those parents that are trying to set this gleaming example of what to be like, and you're never showing your failures. You're never showing your hurt. You're never showing you cry. You're never showing the struggles that you were dealing with. Then you're setting your children up for this false narrative when they get out in the world, because when they start falling down, when they start getting hurt, when they start crying, when they start feeling like they have screwed up, what they're going to do is they're going to look at you as the parent and be like, what the hell is wrong with me? My mom and dad didn't ever have this.
They're gonna think they're broken, that they're the
Hmm.
problem, when in reality, everyone messes up, everyone fails, everyone
Yep.
goes through that down. But if you don't know that that down's a reality, you think you're just in hell and that you fucked up internally.
Hmm. Yep. And man, I've been there like 100%. And that hit home with me when I heard that your mom say that. It was just like, oh, so like the best thing that I could actually do for my kids is to be real,
Mhm.
to take the facade off, to pull down the curtain and just be myself, good, bad, otherwise. And that really changed so much about how I approached parenting.
Mhm.
And, it's like I tell you all the time. I think that's another good thing for the audience out there to like really understand. Because of the experience that I've had in life. I've been 17. I've moved out of mom and dad's house. I've had friends that have done it. I have seen hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of examples of young children going through certain stages in life at different points in time, and then had done that myself. I can give Maddox advice on his life in certain stages as long as I have the relevant experience historically to be able to do so. I'm incapable of doing is giving the same advice to myself at my stage in life, because I've never been here before, just like he has never been here before. So I am still at the exact same stage of life in my understanding of how to move forward from here as he is at 17. So even though I can help him or help other people who, when I have relevant experience that plays in, I can't necessarily do that when my own course is also uncharted. I can't do that for myself. So you don't want to be out there promoting this idea to others that you have all the answers, because you're in, I don't care how old you are. You could be 65 years old. You're still that person trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be behaving and what your life is going to be like, how to make the decision that's coming up, right? Because very few decisions are cut and dry. Very few decisions are black and white. Most decisions have multiple outcome opportunities, and you're just hoping that three of those happen or whatever. Like, it's a guessing game a lot of the times. You're performing experiments, but sometimes those experiments are like, I think this is a good idea.
Don't know. I think it is.
And then you just wait and see. And then that's where learning comes in, because when it comes back, you're going to get the feedback.
Mhm.
When the feedback comes back, you're going to be like, no, no, that was a bad idea. Or you're going to be like what it usually is, like, oh, I could have done better.
Mhm.
That wasn't terrible, but there's areas for improvement. And then the second time, the third time, the fourth time I'm in a similar scenario, I then have a trained behavioral pattern with enough evidence that I've analyzed well enough to be able to say, look, okay, I'm 90% positive right now that steps 1, 2, and 3 are the right actions in this moment to produce the outcomes that I'm wanting.
Mhm.
But it takes time to get there. And unless you have that experience, you don't know. If this is a fresh situation for you or a fresh situation for me, I'm just as much in the water, right? I come to you for advice,
Mhm.
right? I'm like, hey, I'm dealing with some shit and I really don't know where to go from. Like, what do you think? Why?
Mhm.
I'm looking for that different lens.
Yep. And so it is some of my favorite times when he does come to me because it allows me to learn and how to help and teach other people. And it also helps me learn how to brainstorm with someone else. Sometimes having two different lenses is like having six different lenses. It really
Hmm.
helps bring other ideas together.
Yeah, I find it to be the most beneficial is when I'm trapped in one of my characters.
Hmm.
And we talk about that sometimes, or talked about that in the Matrix video, and I also the methodology of the growth mindset video.
Hmm.
I talked about that, like, do you observe your thoughts? Are you the person observing your thoughts, right? Who is the entity, the energy behind your conscious thought? And once you get to a space to where you can start to observe that and remain there more often, it brings a lot of value in your life. And then you can start to control your thinking. Then you can not get caught in these thought traps and these cyclical cycles of thinking that cause all this damage. But then every now and then a character takes over, and then you get lost in that character, and then you fully wear that character. Well, that character thinks a certain way, it rationalizes things a certain way, it has behavioral patterns, it has all of these things that go along with these four characters that you have inside of your brain. And when I get into these characters, what really helps the most, and that's where those conversations come in. It's like
Mhm.
I'll start conversing with you and I'll start applying my rationale or my logic or my thinking. And then if you're not also in a character, then you will start to expose the holes.
Mhm.
And that's usually when I start to realize, like, oh, I'm in a character right now.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I'm caught in a thought trap because I'm not thinking rationally,
Mhm.
you know? And that has been so helpful for me to be able to recognize that, like, bam. But that's also because you're also at a state to where, like, you've learned to start logically thinking through things and how to rationalize and how not to get caught into your own characters. Sometimes you kind of call me out on some of that shit. Like
Oh,
you'll know
I
it,
get
you'll know it before I'm in it.
Mhm.
But that's the appropriate thing, right? Because that's the other thing is by understanding your four characters, and we'll get into this in detail in a later podcast, but you will also realize that everybody has the same four characters. And a lot of people maybe have more than four characters. There's no limit to what you can create. But one of the jobs by understanding what those characters are is you have to also be able to recognize the character that the people around you are in, right? If I go up to Maddox and Maddox is really locked into his character too, which sometimes can be very depressive or sad, I need to recognize that Maddox is in his character too, because then that'll help me choose what character do I need to be in right now? How can I best show up for Maddox? Also, what is the best option to be able to reach him so I can let him know that he's in a character,
Mhm.
right? And you do the same thing for me.
Yep.
We do the same thing for your mom, right? Except for when her character 2 comes out, we disappear.
Yep.
Yep.
Run away at mock speed.
No, she's not. We make it sound like she's scary, but she's not, like, mean. No.
She's the good kind of scary. Just like
Like any good woman, she's a force. But it's important to have strong leaders. It's important to have strong family dynamics. It's
Mhm.
important to have this communication within the family so that you can get to these spaces because living with you now is so much easier. And it's not perfect. I still have to go into dad mode every now and then.
Mhm.
Like, it happens, and then I usually get mad at you too because I even tell you, it's like, "Why are you making me dad right now?" Like, I've been minding my own business, I'm going through my day, like, the last thing I had in my mind to do right now was parent, and now you force me to put the hat on and be, like, funny in the parenting mode. But the cool thing is like, I can go into dad mode and then right back out
Mhm.
in, like, seconds.
Yeah, you're not
And
stuck in it.
not stuck in it. It's like, okay, you did something, and I'm like, Dad. And then you're like, and I'm like, okay, it's over. And moving on. But it has made our family dynamic so much better.
Mhm.
And what has it done for your life? Like, what has it done for Maddox? Like, where is Maddox today compared to where you were? How has this stuff really helped you?
So I'm still and I still have a lot I'm working on, and I still have a lot of emotional work I'm doing. But aside from the problems I'm currently having, it has made my life a lot easier, both in my mood swings. I am someone who deals with a lot of heavy emotional outbursts. I'll go from super depressive to angry to overly ecstatic, just constant changes. Them being able to recognize it helps me recognize it, which helps me either simmer down those emotions or go do something to get them out so I can
Mm,
experience them. Because back then, what I would do is I'd just sit with it and I'd bottle it up, and then I bottle it up again, and then I bottle it up again, and then break, and everyone would go crazy, and then I'd do it again. So that's one of the big ones. I think it has also helped cure a lot of my self-destructive tendencies. Back then, I used to really strive to break my relationships. I'd put in effort to try and blow them all up because I didn't really care about living anymore. I just wanted it all to fall down. nowadays I'm able to recognize when I'm doing that and go, okay, I need to step back from this person and I need to stop doing this.
Mm,
Like, I struggle with reaching out to people, and right now, it's something I'm still working on, but I've done a lot better about being able to reach out and be honest that I struggle with that.
yeah.
Even if I haven't fully fixed the problem yet, I'm aware of it, I tell people I'm struggling with it, and I do better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I agree with that too, because I think that the evidence is in the behavior.
Mhm,
You know, the outward environment of living with you, interacting with you, being around others with you. If it wasn't real, then it wouldn't exist at all the levels.
mhm,
You know, it would only exist in public. You'd have these kids that are great in public, you know, you better be good in public. I don't care what you act like when you're at home. Well, I do. I care what you act like at home because that makes my day better or worse. Like it impacts my life. I don't want you to just be good in public. I want you to be good all the way around and for you.
mhm,
You know, and you said something earlier that I thought was really important. You know, I'm a Pisces too. So this emotional regulation thing is real,
mhm.
right? But that's not an excuse, is it?
No,
Because whose responsibility is it for your emotional regulation?
yourself,
That's
always.
right. That's right. So hopefully some of you guys heard that out there. If a 17-year-old child can make a decision and have enough awareness to go, it is my responsibility to make sure that I am responsible and in charge of my own emotional regulation. Then if you're an adult, you have no excuse. And yes, I'm challenging you.
And just because I wanted to clarify on something, I misspoke. Earlier, I said that it's a lot harder for adults to fall into the brainwashing traps and things similar. This is what I was talking about.
Mm.
You should know that your emotions are your own. You should know that if you're angry, you don't have the right to hit someone or do something like that. You don't have the right to be violent.
Well, but you know, I can speak on this because I was there.
Hmm.
When you are caught into that victim trap, when you are caught into that space to where, you know, I'm just a victim, you become a victim to yourself. You're a victim to your own thoughts. You're a victim to your own emotions. It's like, I'm sad right now. I'm upset right now. I'm having these thoughts. It's so negative and I can't stop the thoughts and I can't stop the thoughts and everything just keeps coming. That's not an excuse. That's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to be stuck in. Man, I relate. I have been there, but it is not an excuse. You are responsible for your own self regulation, your own emotional regulation, how you behave, how you show up, how you internalize everything.
Hmm.
And if you are not in charge of that, you are making everyone else in your life responsible for being in charge of that. Now, your kids, your family, your wife, your spouses, whatever, they're walking around and they're walking on eggshells because they don't know how you're getting ready to show up.
Hmm.
And now it becomes everybody else's problem. And I'm 100% was 100% guilty of that. And I have gotten so much better. But there are still moments when I get into some of my characters, I will fall back into some of these traps, but it's still no one else's responsibility. It is mine. I'm grateful for the help when, you know, when Maddox is like, "Hey, you're stuck in your character too right now, and I really don't like that guy." Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I needed that. I'm grateful for that. But then I'm also a little disappointed in myself because I'm like, you know, it was my responsibility to catch that.
Hmm.
You know, and so then I think, okay, what do I need to do next time? What are some things? Let's analyze the situation. Let's reflect on it. Let's look at everything that led up to it. Let's look at all the behaviors during it. Let's look at all of my actions while it was happening. Okay, where can I find the improvement?
Hmm.
Where can I build a safeguard in? And maybe if I could have stopped it here, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
You know, I could have cut this behavior off at the curve, right? Because
Hmm.
we're like dogs a lot of times. It's like, you know, if you could stop a dog before it goes into like full mode, you're fine. But like once it goes into prey drive, like you're in prey drive. Like you have to escalate to get some type of behavior to snap that. And I'm the same way. It's like if I can catch myself as I'm starting to fall into a pattern, it is so much easier to snap myself out of it.
Versus when the thoughts are already spiraling and you're already dealing with it.
Exactly. You know, and I've noticed that too. I've been able to identify like when I catch things early versus late.
Mhm.
And usually I get it from your mom. I get it from her reaction. The severity of her correction is usually indicative of how far I've allowed that to go,
Mhm.
because she will escalate the correction to match the intensity of my behavior.
Mhm.
So it's like if I'm sitting there and I don't, and I'm not, I'm just unaware and I'm having a bad day or whatever, I'm internalizing whatever I'm internalizing, or and next thing you know, I get some hard bam, like, whoa, what was that for? And then I get the look and it's like, I should know. I should know. Hold on. I'm thinking.
Give me a minute, don't kill me.
But
Yeah.
it then it's like, oh, I really slipped up here.
Mhm.
Like I let this get down the road a little too far. I wasn't in charge of myself enough, and that was creating problems. And so hopefully that helps some of you guys out there. But you want to add something?
Yes, I do actually. One thing that let's say you don't have anyone who you trust to call these things out, or you just want to be able to work on it on your own. One thing that I used to do and that I still do is breathing technique. If I'm super upset, I'll go, it always makes me smile. It makes me laugh. If I'm sad and I try to do that, I can recognize that I'm sad because I won't want to, or I can
Mm,
recognize that I'm angry because I will want to, and I just want to get that energy out. So
mm.
you can find a behavior that you enjoy and then use that as a rough draft for how you're feeling, because depending on your emotion, you're going to treat that behavior differently.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's good advice.
Mhm. That's the only tip I got.
Well, I'll tell you what, brother. We have had a pretty good conversation up to this point, and
Mhm.
this was the introduction to the Goat Man. So,
Oh,
we're gonna have you on. You're gonna be a regular co-host, and
correct.
we're going to share lots of information. We're gonna talk about a lot of things out there. So, if you're out there listening to this video, if you come from a similar situation, a similar background, if you have questions, comment, send us some messages, let us know. I'd be glad to share information, tips, tricks. Hopefully this has given you guys something to think about. Also, hopefully it's given you some hope, because I know that I would have loved to have been able to see this side of it when I was going through the thick of the storm,
Mhm.
because it was so difficult when you're in it. It was so hard. It was so hard. Like it was so hard that it's literally hard to mention how hard it was without wanting to tear up right now. Like legitimately traumatizing the experience, and that is parenting. And I still have unresolved situations with my two other children. We're batting 1 out of 4. 25% isn't terrible. Got one. The other ones will come around eventually, maybe, hopefully, if they
They
want
will,
to.
I believe.
Yeah, if they want to. But, again, that's their journey, right?
Mhm.
That is their journey. That is up to them to decide. Hey, they have to see me. They have to see your mom. They have to see our family, and they have to see something that they want to be a part of.
Mhm.
And if it isn't right for them, if that isn't a good fit, if they don't want to be a part of it, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not right.
Mhm. And one thing I wanna add to that is that, we go back to the in love thing. Just because someone doesn't wanna be around you, or just because someone is bad for you in this moment, doesn't mean you still can't love them, doesn't mean you still can't hold grace for them at all times.
Yeah.
Like my brother, he hates me, I love him. I will always be open for him. If he ever wants to come to me and call me, or he needs help, I will always be there for him because he's my brother and I still love him. Will I recognize that if he tries to come into my life too much, he sometimes has toxic behaviors that I need to distance from? Yeah. But I can recognize that and still love him and give him grace for those moments and not hold it against him. You should never judge, just be aware
Yeah.
and observe.
Judgment. We should shoot a whole video on judgment.
Yes. Agree with you on that.
Man, you talk about one of the biggest lessons of my life. That judgment was a catalyst lesson that changed so much.
Hmm.
So much. That was massive. So yeah, we'll shoot an episode on judgment. Yeah, maybe we just created that here. Look at us. Uh, all right. I appreciate everybody out there. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with this video. I hope that some of the stuff that was said here today resonated with you. Hopefully you took something from it. If not, maybe you just enjoyed the good conversation. But I appreciate every single one of you out there. We are going to keep working and dropping videos. We got plenty of stuff. We got some traveling coming up for a few weeks. So we're going to try to get some videos rolling that we'll be able to drop out there while we're traveling. We're heading back to Missouri. We're leaving the Pacific Northwest to go to the
Very
Midwest. I'm not. as a Midwestern born and raised, I don't know why anybody would do that. There's a sign as you leave Oregon that says, you got to ask yourself, is there anything really worth this? Like, so and that's a real sign. Like, once you're here, you're like, yeah, drive into Cali, and I'm like, yeah, do I really want to go to Cali?
Worth
Like, I'm not 100% sure California's got anything I want to be a part of. So yeah, the Pacific Northwest. But we're gonna go to Colorado. We're gonna go to Missouri. We're
Mhm.
gonna do a bunch of rock climbing.
Of course.
Of why we're out there, we're just gonna make a big rock climbing trip. Gonna go out and see some friends and some family and do our thing. But we're gonna keep the content coming for you guys. We're gonna get stuff coming down, and again, just appreciate everybody that's out there. Make sure to make some comments, send us some messages, let us know what you think. Still working on the website and the community. We got that stuff coming down the pipe. So that's just a little bit of housekeeping and everything for you guys. But with that said, it is the Burning Man and Burning Bear and Goat Man
Peace out.
out.